18 years old, you are looking long term, that's
People are gonna hear like, this guy owns a bakery. Why did you even consider doing something else? Like if you already own something.
the reality is.
Welcome back everybody to Be the Trader. Today is gonna be a great day because I am hanging out in Austin, Texas with a bunch of traders for a meetup here that we're hosting. And today I'm gonna be interviewing a trader who's been trading for 8 years and he primarily focuses on small caps, long bias, which is pretty insane. So I wanted to bring TangoBaker, AKA Chris Morales here to share some of that knowledge. So how you doing, brother?
Good, man. Good. Thank you for having me. I've absolutely appreciate everything you've done, letting me crash out this beautiful Airbnb with this beautiful view. This is phenomenal. This is awesome. This is the highlights of becoming a stock trader, is to be able to hang out with people like you and other traders here who know trading, and we can be able to talk about the topics and act like we've known each other forever because we've been through the same thing, right? The same emotions, the same struggles, the same challenges, and then actually trying to make some money doing this and being successfully doing it.
So speaking of that, the same struggles, let's talk about your beginnings.
Yeah.
You know, take us back to, was it 2016?
2016, May 2016 is when I officially started in the small cap trading world.
What happened? Like, what made you interested in this world? What drew your attention? Take us from there.
So my father started a bakery in 1972. From 1972 to 2002, we were a wholesale bakery. And so that's how I grew up. Through the bakery, in 2002, we switched over from wholesale, got rid of all the wholesale and went over to retail. But there was this one particular customer who would come in. His name is Mr. Yeagle. And he's on a show that we did with the Food Network called Food Finds. And so Mr. Yeagle would say certain words like, money's like manure, it's best spread around. And then then Mrs. Yeagle would come in and they would buy a whole bunch of loaves of bread. And he would just say certain things like Smucker's is doing really well, Toyota. And I would ask him, I was like, so you mess around the stocks? And he goes, yeah, I dabbled in it. And then Mrs. Yeagle would come up, oh, don't let him kid you. He's done very well in the stock market. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? So finally, getting to know him over the years, it turns out he was a long bias trader, dividend reinvest in growth stocks that will always be needed, like a Smucker's type of a company, Procter & Gamble. And it turns out he made $35 million off of a school teacher's salary. Yeah. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. So he was born like in 1930s-ish, 1920s, somewhere in there. And so he was a retired professor from the University of New Mexico. And because I showed interest, he decided to take me under his wing. Now I'm a pupil, right?
Yeah.
And he would bring in the Wall Street Journal and he would highlight articles that he was interested in. He showed me how to read on the backside of the Wall Street Journal the buys and sells, the opens and closes. And then he showed me how to buy stocks with a check. You have to mail in, so write it, what your buy is, and then you would mail it in. And then at the time, CompuServe was the company that was managing the stocks for it. I didn't know it at the time, but these big companies, Fortune 500 companies, hire another firm to manage all the people who own shares of a company. So this is like getting away from Charles Schwab or any of the brokers that we deal with now, right? This is buying directly from the company, and then you can do dividend reinvest with them, and you put a little check mark as dividend reinvest. Huh. Disney does the same thing. All these big Fortune 500 companies hire a company like CompuServe who manage all this stuff. And
that's interesting.
That's how I got started with it. The big difference between him and me is he started when he was super young before he joined the military. And so he was able to take small portions of his paycheck. So if anybody who's listening to this, if you're 18 years old and you are looking long term, that's one of the greatest ways to get started. And but the difference is I wasn't 18. I'm in my 30s at this time, and I knew I had to find something that would accumulate money in a shorter time frame than what he did, because he had time. Compared to me, I have a shorter amount of time because I didn't know this stuff when I was young.
Right,
you know?
Absolutely.
And so I got to learn from him, and then he passed away. And then when he passed away, I started looking for other answers.
When did he pass away?
He passed away around 2015, 2014, something like that.
Oh, okay. So and then that's when you started to find small caps.
Right, when I started looking at small caps.
Ah, okay. So now it's coming because you're like, I need to find some other way to compensate for the time that I lost.
Right. I signed up for a penny stocking newsletter, and basically the sales was, if you bought XYZ penny stock at 16 cents and you put $5,000 and then rolled it over to XYZ penny stock and took that 5,000 to this, and you did 12 different trades, by the end of the year you would have been a millionaire. And I was like, what? No, that doesn't make sense. So that was like my first, unwillingly knowing I was part of a pump and dump scheme of selling a newsletter that you would sign up for and you pay money for it. And so that's kind of the beginnings of all the advertisings that would bombard you on social media and stuff. And so that's kind of where it all began, and on this quest trying to figure out what's the best way to go about doing this.
So when you start trading small caps, we're saying 2016, are you trading real money right at the gate?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I was trading real money right out of the get-go. Small amount of money, trying to figure something out. Realizing that this was totally different than what Mr. Yeagle was suggesting, or any of the library books that you could buy, or any books off of Amazon, because nobody knows small caps to be able to trade it. It's kind of like a whim, right? It's not value investing.
Yeah, not at all.
Right.
So how long did it take you to kind of like, so 2016, how long did it take you to find something that worked for you at that point?
Well, I decided to go the route of education.
Okay.
I came across, like a lot of people do, Tim Sykes.
Yep.
Right. Best to get your education. I bought the How to Make Millions DVD setup that he has. And for me, it was very, very confusing. But I was like, oh, this is a system to learn from. Maybe I don't have all the information I need to be able to do it. And so I also joined Stocks to Trade Pro. I went to the conference in Florida that he had that year in 2016. And then I met Tim Bowen, and then that's when they were just starting Stocks to Trade and just introduced Stocks to Trade Pro. And then that's when I started studying under Tim Bowen.
Oh, cool. And was it just like pretty easy at that point moving forward?
No. I was very confused of the material that's being sent to me. I couldn't comprehend the terms of OTC market and these patterns here. And then working with Tim Bowen, who was doing 52-week breakouts, teaching. And so a lot of it was confusion. I didn't know how to use the tools. I didn't know how to use Stocks to Trade. I didn't know how to use Thinkorswim. And also at the time, a lot of the tools we currently have didn't even exist. For example, BAMSEC, what we use now, that's a great tool that I utilized. Dilution Tracker, which is now available, that didn't exist at that time as well. And so it was very difficult to be able to accumulate the tools and know how to utilize them for what we're trying to do. And so I struggled a lot, but one of the things that I started noticing quite a bit, and especially of that year, there was a company called Dries, and Dries went from $5 to $120. And it was a reverse split. And that was the commonality of things I was looking in the past, is a lot of these companies that move a lot in small cap reverse splits. Why? At the time, I didn't know, and I didn't comprehend it. And nobody had SEC filings information, and so I had really no guidance. Michael Good's DVD isn't really for small cap, even though you listen to it, and it's very, very long. It's very informative, but it's more for bankruptcy and trying to find corruption and stuff in the mid caps to large caps range, but nothing that deals specifically with the small cap area of how to interpretate small cap. And so that was the biggest challenge I had then, and then trying to figure out how does this all work, right? So that's where I started going down the rabbit hole of reverse splits and learning corporate financing and the rules and regulations of all these exchanges that these companies live on. And so that took me a long time to start putting it together and piecemealing. It's a lot of time with my buddy who started trading at the same time. His name is Kenny. He goes by Vitamin K on the stock trading world. A lot of nights hanging out at his house, sipping some whiskey, trying to read filings and trying to read all this corporate mumbo jumbo and legal stuff. And then all of a sudden a word like baby shelf pops out. Like, what's baby shelf, right? A word says non-compliance, NASDAQ non-compliance. Well, what's this rule? that they're referring to. What are these crazy formulas for warrants? What does this mean? And so it was a lot of that, trying to figure all those things out with no help. Like we really had no help. And then the people we did ask didn't have answers because there was a transition from a lot of people trading OTC moving over to NASDAQ, and nobody cared about filings, nobody cared about warrants or ATMs, nobody cared about that. All they cared about was price action. And so that was basically telling us that, or telling me that you're going down the wrong path. This is not the droid you're looking for.
Yeah. You know, well, I'm curious, can you give me perspective on the time frame that took for you to learn all that? Because, you know, from 16 to what was it where you were learning? Like, how long was that learning
About
experience?
3 to 4 years
Okay.
of trying to comprehend those.
So that's
types of
important
things.
because, you know, some people are going to hear this like, okay, cool, I'm going to start studying this. And they're thinking, you know, another month or two, I'm going to get this. Could you give them perspective on how it's easy to fall into that trap, but also how important it is to understand how long this can take?
I mean, everybody uses the examples of what it takes to be a professional, right? If you're going to become a lawyer, you have to go through college. You have professors are guiding you through a process. If you're going to become a doctor, it's even longer, but you have to learn the terminology, the words, everything. In my world, since I'm a baker and I own a bakery, to get somebody to be an apprentice of becoming a baker, to be able to be production value, and to be a quote-unquote master baker, that takes years. Years to know your flours, what are you dealing with, a summer wheat, a winter wheat, what kind of yeast you're working with, what mill is milling what. Those are the little nuances that, yeah, you go to culinary art school, but they only teach you so much. And then you actually go to culinary art school, or a lot of people don't go to culinary art school, but then when you start working for me at a bakery, it takes me 1, 2, 3, 4 years to get you to a level that I need you to be at, like mixing ingredients, how to look at the mixer, how to see stuff. That takes time. And a lot of people don't comprehend the nuances, the details of how long it takes to learn things, either from a trade, becoming a welder, to work in refrigeration, to work in automotive, all the different models and makes, to anything you do that is significant, that you will get paid more to do, or hopefully more to earn, takes a long time to know.
By now, you know our show is sponsored by Cobra Trading. I use them every day, and for good reason. I love the fast execution and the great customer service. And it's not just me saying this. Both Benzinga and Forbes Advisor awarded Cobra Trading best-in-class ratings in multiple categories for day traders. You can sign up now with the Be The Trader link below, and Cobra will give you free software for a month and 33% off commissions for life. I know you'll be as happy as I am when you trade with Cobra. Now let's get back to the show. So people are going to hear, like, this guy owns a bakery. Why did you even consider doing something else, like if you already own something?
The reality is you'll never become rich owning a bakery. And a lot of things, too, is a lot of people who decide they want to open up restaurants, the success of opening up a restaurant is like slim to none. A lot of people say, okay, I got a really cool home recipe, and I think I want to take it and serve it for the public. The problem is it's more than just cooking. It's running the operations, dealing with employees, knowing equipment, be able to purchase very, very expensive to do it. So there is only so much that you can make as a bakery. There's only so much you can make as a restaurant, unless you knock it out of the park and you have major investors. I mean, any fancy restaurant you go to, I'm not talking like high-end fancy restaurant, but any restaurant that has good atmosphere that costs anywhere in the ballpark of $200,000 up to $2 to $3 million, depending on the size and scope of it. So it's very expensive to be in that place. And that's why, for me, I wanted something, one, I could still manage my bakery, work on that, but also find something that will provide more income for me. Either A, to handle my retirement, because I'm not going to get a retirement working at the bakery. There's no 401ks, right? I'm my own owner. I don't have any angel investors in the background, right? So, and Social Security is not going to be much, because as owners, even though we're making a paycheck, we're not making a paycheck. So you really can't invest much into your Social Security, right? So you have to come to a realization that you're busting your butt. This is hard work. but you also need the financial reward that goes along with it. And that's why I started looking for something that I could do with the bakery, but also do in my free time, or what free time I had, or how I can integrate my trading with running the bakery.
So speaking of that, the free time that you had, how did you utilize and keep, because some people are working a full-time job,
Yep.
or they might own a side business,
Yep.
and they might be married or have kids, or they're doing something, right? And they want to pick up trading. How did you balance that? And what would you recommend for people?
Cut out all the frivolous things that you're doing. The scrolling on social media, because everybody has their phones on them. Anytime that you're dealing with social media, it's wasted time, right? Anytime that you're watching TV shows, it's a waste of time. Playing video games is a waste of time. By the way, I used to play video games when I was young, but when I came back into the bakery business in 2002, I cut out all video games because the bakery was my video game, right? I can't remember what, Roller Coaster Tycoon is what it was.
Yeah.
So, right, Roller Coaster Tycoon, you are building a theme park and you're managing it and you're trying to get customers to come through. Well, why in the hell do I need to play Roller Coaster Tycoon when I have a bakery that I'm trying to build up and get customers to come into? I'm just doing the real world version of that video game, right? So cut out the video games, cut out all the frivolous type of stuff. Social got really small, hanging out with friends. I wasn't just doing frivolous conversations anymore.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I did have a trading buddy, which was my buddy Kenny.
Yep.
So when we hanged out, we were talking stocks, right? So down the road, I found out there's a thing called reps. Like you trade, that's one rep. You do a trade review, that's another rep. But then the part that a lot of us are missing because we're doing this at home is be able to talk to a real person about what your trade was and talking it through and talking ideas.
Which is what we've been doing all day.
Yeah, exactly it.
All day.
So that's your other rep. And so now I'm hanging out with a friend who's interested in stocks, who's going through the same struggle I'm going through, and we're feeding off each other to be able to do that.
So there are a couple things you hit on, and I'm going to get back to that, but I also want to find out, so it took about 3 to 4 years to find consistency in the small cap world.
Yeah.
You find consistency, now we're talking 2019, 2020, I'm guessing. Is it sunshine and roses at that point? Like you're like, oh, I found what works, it's easy.
No, that's the biggest one. The answer is no, it's not sunshine and roses, especially when you have financial pressures. It is a lot different if you're starting at this stock trading, like Mr. Yeagle too, when he was 18, 19 years old, not married, no kids, no mortgage, no car payments, right? When you're starting at that time frame of life, the value of money is totally different to you at that time compared to when you have all these obligations, business obligations, employees, staff, taxes, being married, having kids, having a mortgage. Money means a lot different. And when you have financial obligations above you, it makes you do weird things in here, right? I never knew what tilt was until I started stock trading. I didn't even know it was a thing. I didn't know it was a real, like my behavior that it felt like it was an outside influence controlling me was tilt. I never knew. And so when you're trading and you're making money or you're losing money, there's a whole different side of you never even knew about. And then you have to face that person because there's nobody else telling you to do this.
Isn't that crazy?
It's wild. It's a weird feeling.
It is. And you mentioned earlier, I have a buddy now that I'm talking to about struggles. And people are going to hear like, well, wait a minute, I thought he's consistently profitable. Sure, you can easily be consistently profitable, but you're still going to go through drawdowns, struggles.
Yep.
Just like business owners.
Yep.
You can have crazy business years and then really bad business years. And overall still maintain your family. Like that's just how it goes.
Yep.
Just like if you're in sales at a corporate job, you can have great years and bad years.
Like at the bakery, right now it's our slow season.
Yep.
Especially due to weather, because not people who don't go to bakeries during this time of the year because of the weather. I'm either losing money or breaking even. Right? There's no profit. There's no wiggle room. We have enough money to pay the bills, and if something weird happens where next week the sales drop down, I still have employees, I'll be losing money to be able to. You can only project so much And you can only cut your employees at a certain time, especially people who run restaurants, they have a big staff. You project your sales, and then those sales don't come through, so now you're cutting your employees. Well, they're counting on that paycheck to do the job. You only can cut them so many times before they quit and go someplace else. So all that money you invested into those employees is now gone out the door. So that's the thing that a lot of people forget about, is the uncertainty of owning a business or running your own business. There's only one certainty in this world, and that's if you get a government job and you show up every day for work, and you're gonna get that check. Especially if you've been there long enough, and then you're like, either you're a union or you've been there 10 years, they can't fire you, right? That's the only guarantee that you're gonna find out there. The rest of the time, you can be laid off from any job. Any tech job out there, you can get laid off real quick, right?
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere, show up one day like, hey, we're cutting 15% of this, the labor force. Where does that leave me? Oh, by the way, bye.
Yep.
All right. So there's always uncertainty in life.
But that's not. But people don't see it.
No, they don't.
They don't see that.
They don't.
They don't.
They expect guarantees. Well, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees that you're going to make money tomorrow. There's no guarantees that my day job, my bakery, I'm going to make money tomorrow. I can put all my effort. I can work the 12, 16 hours to get to that point. I can bust my butt, but there's no guarantee that even my hard work equals a paycheck.
So let's go on that subject, because so many people are going to head towards this road at some point.
Yeah.
And they're watching the show. They're like, you know what, I'm going to try this. How can they prepare themselves to understand that labor doesn't necessarily mean revenue?
Right.
Right? Because most of us, I'm putting myself in this, we had jobs that did pay a paycheck every month, no matter what. If I was sick for 2 weeks, if I, did a bad job that month, I still got my check.
Right.
Those people are going to be entering the world where you can work, and lose money.
Every day.
Could you share with people the reality of how that is a reality? Like, that's going to happen, especially when you're new.
Yeah, when you're new, there's a couple ways to go about getting the skill set to be able to trade. One is, of course, is trading with real money and then burning it and losing it and blowing up accounts. And your definition of how people blow up accounts is depend upon how they value money, right? Or you can do it with the side of you're studying the market. You're building up your playbook. You're building up knowledge. You're collecting the data to support your theses, right? But at some time from that point, you're going to have to apply this thesis into real world. You can always say with paper trading, I could have done this, I would have made 20 grand, or I would have done this, I would have made $1,000. But then when you actually put the money where your mouth is and you're actually applying it, you put your hat in the arena, right? If anybody hasn't heard that quote, it's a very important quote. You put your hat in the arena, and that's when you start learning the reality of how this is a possibility. And you will have the times where you're not going to make any money with it. The thing is, you always want to be so optimistic that it makes you work harder and go back to the drawing board and say, what did I miss? What was the information that I didn't have that made me make that decision, right? What did I miss? And you always want to try to look forward to get to that point. In that time frame, you have to be able to balance everything else to be able to get to there. And that's where the sacrifices come from, right? Anybody who's ever been successful at anything has sacrificed everything to get to that point. It's like, how many times can you fail? Can you fail up, right? Can you fail up over and over again until you learn what works for you and what doesn't work for you? And that time frame can be really short or can be really long, depending on the markets that we get.
So you find consistency. It's not all sunshine and roses, as you mentioned.
Right.
What is the next challenge for you? Like, what was the biggest challenge for you after you knew what worked for you? You started to see some success. What was that next challenge for you?
The biggest main reason why I got into the stock trading was because of financial pressures.
Okay.
Thankfully, I came across an amazing market where I was able to remove those financial pressures, right?
Yep.
I'm in a different place now than I was when I first started. Mentally, I'm in a different place. So now I feel so happy to trade. I feel so comfortable to trade.
Yep.
I'm building my accounts,
Yep.
just like everybody else does. And now it's the process of learning what works in the current market that I'm dealing with, right? What are the lessons or what are the plays from my playbook that I developed that worked in 2020, 2021, 2022 that are now working now? And it's that process of always being fluid with the market and being observant of what's working. And that portion of it has been the challenge for me. I was so stuck on XYZ that worked for me in the past, but I wasn't able to properly transition like I am now. And the reason for that is I didn't have a playbook system that allowed me to adjust. My system was flawed, my process system was flawed, that didn't allow me to be observant of what I'm working with in the market. And that's what I've been really concentrating on these past couple years.
Can you elaborate a little bit more what you mean by that?
So there is a book that I purchased a long time ago, and it was for managing my business. And it's an accounting book.
Okay.
And it's called Managing by the Numbers. And in Managing by the Numbers, they talk about your financial dashboard.
Okay.
In the financial dashboard, you have your P&Ls, your profit and loss, you have your cash flow, and you have your aging receipts, right? And so these are three different dashboards that you work with. Between the three different dashboards will tell you the health of your company, right? I needed to create myself a dashboard for the health of my trading business. So I recreated a new system that I've been working on, and it has changed everything for me on my perception of dealing with the markets. So now I have a trading journal, I have a trading playbook, and I have a workups. So workups are stocks that I have time to work with, like swing trades or stocks that have just done a reverse split, but they haven't been pumped yet.
Yep.
I have plenty of time to work with those. Swing trades can be anywhere between 1 day to 30 days, right?
Yep.
Reverse split pumps can be anywhere from 10 days to a full year, right? Depending on their situations and rules and regulations. But I have plenty of time to work on those, and I can understand the filings for it and what they're trying to achieve and what their goals are. I can understand the technicals of what the stock is. That's a workup. My playbook is what I'm analyzing of what's working in the market, right? What does my scanner tell me? So for an example, in the NASDAQ, we have a chart that allows us to assimilate all the stocks that are sitting in the NASDAQ. Same thing with the SPY. You have the top 500 sitting there. It gives us a chart. In small cap, we don't have no such thing. So what we have to do, at least for me, is I have to look at my scanner as if it's accumulation of everything that's happening in the small cap. So I'll take a screenshot of my scanner, if the scanner says all these small cap stocks are up 120%, let's take a screenshot. If at close, all these same stocks are down at 60%, I take a screenshot of that, and that tells me two different things. Compared to if I wake up in the morning and all the stocks are sitting at 60%, but at the end of the day, all of a sudden all the stocks are now at 120, 200, 300%, it tells me a totally different thing.
Yep.
Right? I have to have the way to observe that. Then after that, what patterns from my playbook that I've developed since I've started trading in 2016 to this point, can I apply to this particular market? It's just like a football coach, right? The football coach has a big, gigantic playbook, and he flips through that, and he says, okay, I'm going to be playing against the Baltimore Ravens, who have horrible run defense. We're going to pull out all our running plays, right? We know how to execute against them. I'm going to be playing against the San Francisco, and they have horrible throwing defense, right? We're going to throw it down their throat every single day. They know what plays they want to play for their playbook that they developed over the years. It's the same thing for me, is I have my plays out of my playbook that depending upon the market conditions, I will pull out and say, okay, this is what I want to be able to adjust. Now, I think everybody knows first green day.
Yep.
Right? Well, if people don't know what first green day, let's define it.
Yep.
Because here's a big thing in stock trading. Everybody comes from different worlds, but we have to be able to talk about the same apple.
Right.
You may be working with a red apple, I may be working with a green apple, and we'll debate why we make two different pies. Mine's always winning first place, and yours always coming in second place.
Yep.
Why? Because
Thank you, appreciate that.
yeah, you're welcome. Why? Because I'm working with a different ingredient. So for me, in our world, at least in my world, first green day means a stock that's been dormant for months or years, which means has no trading volume. And then on the first green day, it goes up with abnormal amount of trading volume, let's say 100 million shares, and it's up more than 60%. That's to me is my first green day, right? From that first green day, I have different variations of first green day. Kind of think of it like a Toyota. Everybody knows the manufacturer Toyota.
Yep.
But Toyota makes mini vehicles. They make cars and make trucks. Those two different variations. Well, the trucks, you have to Toyota Tacoma, right? That's Tundra, right? That's two different types of trucks. So you may have a first green day, but now you have two variations of your first green day.
Yep.
But then you may have a Camry, right? That's a different model of a first green day. Within that first green day area, I have different plays from my playbook of how I'm going to apply it to my first green day, right? And so I can be able to watch the stocks, see how they develop, what they're doing, and then I'll take a play from my playbook and then I'll apply that to what has transpired.
I love it. It's almost as if, for some reason, when I picture in my head here, is that old toy that everyone has as a kid. It's like a little utensil or a traceable. It's like you put your traceable playbook up there and you're like, oh, that's what that is.
It matches.
It matches.
It matches.
And look, I know people are going to be like, man, can we go into more detail on what all those patterns are? And I know they're going to have more questions. They're going to want to ask more. Yeah. So before we start to wrap this up, where can they learn more about you?
So I am now working with Roland Wolf.
Yeah.
I've been working with Roland Wolf for a very long time. I've been a student of his when he first started his private group. What's very interesting about Roland was I was on this path of reverse splits. Never once did I talk to Roland about reverse splits when he started his trading career. When me and him finally met and started chit-chatting, it turns out we both ordered the exact same book at the exact same time, and he received it the day we started talking. I received it the day after we started talking.
That's funny.
So we're on these parallel paths,
right?
But I have my version of reverse splits. He has his versions of the reverse splits. So I have so much information, knowledge of filings and offerings and all this stuff. And then I have been successful with my trading that he's asked me to be his first coach for his students.
Nice.
So that's where you guys can find me at. That's the room that I feel very comfortable with trading with other individuals. That's kind of like my home base, right?
100%.
But I've been a part of a whole bunch of other trading rooms as well.
Oh yeah.
But people, if they want to chit chat with me, talk with me, join Roland Wolf in his rwtrades.com. Sign up for a monthly membership and we can chit chat about stocks. If you want to work one-on-one with me, you do have to become a lifetime member within his thing, and then we can start figuring out what you're struggling with. Like, I don't want to erase any of your history that you've done with until you've been studying the wrong things. I want to find out what your strengths are, and they shore up your weaknesses, and then we create you a better rounded trader, so then you can continue on your trading journey. I've been a part of a lot of other traders' trading journeys, and it's so awesome to see these people flourish in trading, find their successes, and then I get to be a little bitty part of their trading journey. And that's been probably one of the funnest things about this whole thing. So if people want to find me, that's where that's my trading room. That's where I hang out with. Social media wise, I'm on Twitter as 2 Left Feet Tango, I believe it is. It's because I used to teach
I'll put
tango.
the link below.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
yeah.
I'll put the link below for social media along with Roland Wolf. And you guys all know he's been on the show before, so if you're like, who's that? You can go check out his episode. We'll have that link down below as well. And the one last thing, man, I have to ask this. If you could immediately just go back in time to talk to yourself, and you only had, 5 minutes to give yourself some advice, what would you tell yourself?
The biggest thing, though, is there are a lot of things I wouldn't tell myself. And the reason why, it's the struggle that defines us, right? I needed to go through those filings. I needed to go through the process because now I own that knowledge. I can talk to somebody blue in the face all day long about filings, and it's going to go
Yep.
over the head,
Yeah.
right? So there's a lot of things I wouldn't tell myself. But the one thing that I would tell myself is the playbook and how to set up the playbook. An empty template of it, because you have to go through the process to create that knowledge, for you to own the knowledge. You can talk to any of these very, very successful traders, and they'll tell you until you're blue in the face, and you can write all these notes of how they made all their money, but you won't comprehend it until you actually do it. And it's by doing it and by understanding your emotions, understanding who you are, will then make you become the better trader. But how to organize the knowledge coming into me was the part that I was missing. And for me, it would be for other people do it different ways. But it's how to organize the knowledge that's coming in, especially with talking with great traders like you and all these other guys here in the room, is I'm taking notes, keywords, and I put it in, and I'm going to do my research about it, and I'm going to apply it, that knowledge, into my playbook.
I love that. So look, man, I appreciate you so much coming on the show. I know we'll have you back on in the future because there's already have questions like, wait a minute, I know someone's saying right now, playbook, template, wait a minute.
Right.
Why didn't you ask that, Alex? That's because you're going to have to come back. Make sure you subscribe. You'll watch the next episode. And again, thanks, brother.
It's been awesome to